Hello. This is a little bit of a status update and then just a little bit of what's coming up for me right now. So Tim is just coming off of 5 days of radiation for his thoracic spine, and the tumor is melting and he is finally getting some relief and able to drop down a little bit on some of the steroids he's been taking. So that is good. We also just found out today that he won't need to be hospitalized for intensive chemo. They're gonna kind of give him smaller amounts spread out between now and sometime mid to later September, and then September 25th is when he's hospitalized for the CAR T-cell treatment, and he will receive the injection on the 28th and be hospitalized for a couple of weeks just to keep close tabs on him. So there's also a new drug, a new chemo, or I don't know if it's a chemo or an actual just a different drug that's coming out that's targets another kind of facet of the multiple myeloma. So his doctor is looking forward to that coming out, and that will be the next line of defense after the CAR T-cell treatment. But what's been coming up for me, again, is this whole thing about crises moments as catalysts for change and growth. And I know a lot of people have spent a lot of time kind of exploring this, but I think in my role as occupational therapist and a prior role as minister and just personal quests that I've been on in my own life, I feel like I've really gotten to see the value of the hard in giving us an opportunity to grow. When shit is hard, it's like there's nothing else you can do, but I mean, you can go away from it, and a lot of people do try to bounce out of it quickly. I think what I noticed with chronic pain over a long period of time is that we adjusted and adapted, and I think that's what a lot of us are doing in response to the climate crisis as well. Like, we're adjusting and adapting, and we crank up our air conditionings, and we don't have to use the heat as long in the winter, or, it just, there's like subtle ways that we just adjust, and we might complain about the irregularity of things or celebrate the fact that we have warm days when it usually was cold at a certain time of year. I don't know. There's so many facets of climate change that I could go into, but I think overall what I want to explore is just the difference between something that's chronic in nature and our physical, emotional, spiritual response to it, and something that's acute. And I think that when it's acute and when it becomes a crisis and we really embrace it as such, it's like an invitation to really lean in and like get gritty with it, wrestle with it. What I keep noticing about the chronic pain, I just kept getting mad when it was chronic in nature because I couldn't fix it, I couldn't change it, and so either I got mad or I was just like tried to go on about things as if they were normal, because nothing was in my face enough that it was like screaming out that something is not right, this is not normal. It was just like we could pretend that things were normal enough that we could keep going on. And it just kept getting harder and harder and harder to keep going on. And at the point when Tim was diagnosed with cancer, I mean, I really, like, honest to God, like the month before, I was really screaming out inside of myself, like, this has to change. My spirit is going to die in this marriage if something doesn't shift. And I didn't know what was going to shift or how it was going to shift. I didn't know what would, like, shift in Tim's situation, but I knew that it was becoming unbearable. And it's like the pain was reaching a crisis proportion. Once we actually realized what it was and we could call it a crisis and recognize it as one, it's like something got breathed into it and allowed everything to shift. Because it was so obvious to us, it was so obvious to everyone around us, it was obvious to the people who know and love us. Like, everyone knew and recognized that this was a really for real health crisis. And it was an invitation for, like, all systems to shift. So our family shifted, our roles shifted, our appreciation for each moment together shifted. I don't even, it's hard to say, like, there's nothing that didn't change. And I think sometimes when Tim is feeling okay and we can kind of, like, go on for a little while and in a new norm, sometimes there's a temptation to go back to how things used to be and then try to compare against how things used to be. And I think there's pain and suffering there, because it's like there's a resistance to keep flowing with the new, keep flowing with the change process that we entered into when cancer became a real thing in our lives. And I feel that way about climate change, you know, and the times that we're in right now, that it's this massive invitation for us to change on an unprecedented scale. And that our only way forward is to change. And, you know, I feel like when we try to proceed as if things are normal, and then we're kind of faced again with things are not normal, things aren't the way they used to be, we get frustrated or irritated or annoyed. And I feel that we're really in this time of, like, global invitation on an unprecedented scale to lean into incredible transformation. And I think one of the things that I've learned about cancer and kind of following other people's cancer journeys and hearing people's stories is that as hard as it is, as sucky as it is, like, there's aspects of it that they wouldn't change. They wouldn't undo the new that has come in as a result of the diagnosis and trying to navigate life with it. They wouldn't change the things that they learned. They wouldn't change their newfound gratitude for life and for the simple pleasures and for time with loved ones that they might have taken for granted before. So yeah, I just, again, feel like we're in a time of our existence on this planet where we have this incredible opportunity to, like, lean into the challenge of change. And, like, the crisis moments are evident all around us when the places that we know and love, the places that we've vacationed in, the places that we've retreated to are going up in flames or are inundated by water or just aren't what they were a short time ago. And like on a day-to-day basis, I kind of walk in these different circles, and there's some circles that I'm in that are like absolutely recognizing the change and kind of pedal to the metal, full throttle, trying to do something about it. But there's a lot of circles that I'm in where it's just sort of like you wouldn't even know that there's a crisis afoot because there's no discussion about it. There's no like active dialogue around it. There's no like conversation about, what am I doing? What are you doing? What are we doing? How do we navigate now? How do we pivot? So again, in this space, like I'm not here to bring solution. I'm here to like poke at this part of us that wants to kind of shut down or return to the status quo, or we see it and the problem is out there somewhere and it might not touch us personally right this moment, and so we have a little bit more time before we have to own the problem ourselves. And I think the way I feel about it is that we're at a time where we all are being invited to like stand up in the hats that we wear and the roles that we fill and leverage them for a thriving planet and for thriving, the potential for generations to thrive, generations to come, for our kids, for their kids. And so it's enacting policy changes, it's having the conversations with, it really starts with getting present with our feelings, getting present with our absolute dependence on everything that's green and growing and the blue sky above and the waters that that are all around us. Like it's getting present to our dependence on those. It's then being an advocate for all of those things to continue thriving, or to have a chance at thriving if we've already polluted them or squandered them or depleted them. So a simple example is today I went into one of the restaurants near my workplace. It's one of the few places, probably the only place I'll go eat, because they just have a menu that is much healthier than a lot of other options around. And every time I go, I ask for no plastic, and each time it's kind of a battle. And so yesterday I talked with the manager and I was like, you know what? This sucks because I really care, and I want to come and eat here because I like the food that you serve, and there aren't a lot of other options that meet my palate's taste around here. But I have to I end up feeling yucky when you give me this meal served in a plastic container surrounded by a plastic bag with plastic utensils that I told you I didn't need. And I didn't say it in a mean way. I said it in just like a frustrated way, just to share with her what my feelings were. And she said, well, I'm actually the manager. And she's like, let's take a note down so that anytime you come, we can do this. So the way life has been lately, I didn't come with lunch today, so I ended up going back there, and she was there, and she greeted me by my name. And so I just kind of pulled her aside and I said, have you guys thought of doing a waste analysis of your place? Have you thought of starting a sustainability initiative here? I said, I think if you focused on your low-hanging fruit, which is simply asking your customer, do they want the extra plastic or can they do without it? Do they want the bag or can they do without it? And I said, starting there, I think you'll find you guys save a lot of money. And I just shared with her our experience at my workplace and how much money we saved just by targeting the low-hanging fruit. I shared with her information that she could share back to her boss about Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council and the help that they might be to them as an organization. And I just said, you'd please a lot of customers. And she really listened. And she's going to have a conversation, and she wanted to introduce the manager or the owner to me today, but the owner wasn't in. She thought next time I came in, she might connect us. So, you know, I think it's like, I think we all have the capacity in us to just have these extra little conversations to express that we care about something and that it really matters to us, so that people can know that it matters to us. You better believe if they make a shift because of these conversations, like, I will be promoting them and I will be bringing more customers back to them. And I could be mad, or I can share what's important to me as a consumer. So is that going to fix climate change? Absolutely not. Is it going to keep one more piece of plastic out of a landfill? It very well might. Might it keep a lot of other pieces of things out of a landfill? It might. All right, I don't really know what more I have to say right now about all of this. It's just, this has just been all coming to a head, and I'm just feeling this invitation of the time that we're in to really look at the things that matter to us. Look at all of them and ask ourselves, is it, you know, are we doing something about those things? Are there things that are rubbing us, annoying us, that, I don't know, if we leaned into the crisis of the time that we're in, like, could that serve us in being able to shift faster and shift in a more powerful way? Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So for whoever's still listening to the end, thank you for hearing me out and just giving me a space to put some of my thoughts together. And I hope that whatever I've said gives you something to think about as well. If so, please let me know. All right, take care.